Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to our Jubilee celebration. If I could just have everybody take their seats, we're going to be kicking off our program. And good morning, I'm Attorney Gerald Griggs, President of the Georgia State Conference, but I also hold the distinction of being the first Vice President of the Atlanta chapter of the NAACP. And I want to welcome you to our 2023 Jubilee celebration on behalf of the Executive Committee of the Atlanta NAACP and on behalf of our President, President Richard Rose. And so we will open with a musical selection. We will open with a musical selection. So sit back, enjoy yourselves. This is going to be a great celebration of freedom, liberation, and Black love. I turn it over to our esteemed choir for our musical selection. I'm sorry. Well, I would turn it over to Cedric McMillan for our musical selection.
Good morning. We're thankful that we made it another year, amen? Today we give God total praise. We give him praise because we made it to 2023 alive and in good health. in total praise to Amen. 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 Thank you.
Thank you, Cedric, for that wonderful selection. Y'all give him a round of applause. And so the theme of today's Jubilee celebration is We Shall Unite. And we've come a long way in 2022, and now it's time for 2023. But we cannot kick this off appropriately without giving honor and praise to the higher power. So for that, I would call upon one of my fathers in the movement for the prayer of Jubilee, Reverend Dr. Gerald Derrick.
Y'all sure look good out there. You made it through another year, a year that was not promised to any of us, but because of a loving, almighty, divine, good God, we're here. There were moments and times in all of our lives where we questioned, were we going to make it? Because there were those that were sitting right there last year who are no longer with us today. But because of God's mercy and unmerited favor, you're here. So for Richard Rose, the NAACP staff, to Bishop Jackson, State Representative Boddie, Amari, Fennoy, Pastor Emerging Derrick Boazman, and the friends of the NAACP, my co-warriors for justice, equality, and the reestablishment of a democracy in a divided nation laced with fear, ignorance, and hate. This morning, here at this very special place, we are the remnants who've been chosen to come and remember, reflect, refocus our mission for what you young people will understand for freedom. I started in the movement 62 years ago, and I don't feel no way tired. And we're still fighting for freedom, justice, and equity. Oh yes, we call this day Jubilee, or Emancipation Proclamation Day. When you think about it, 160 years ago, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing the slaves in certain states. It wasn't until the 13th Amendment that some form of liberation really occurred. However, we traditionally come together at the beginning of each new year to, like our ancestors, to wait for freedom. And it's sad that I have to report in 2022 that we're still waiting for freedom. But I love the term that we use, Jubilee year. Every 50 years, it means an economic, cultural, environmental, and communal rest, which means this is the time when we restore the land and the people we rest. And all of those in slavery, when they talked about Jubilee, every 50th year, they were freed. Jubilee, today, a fresh new beginning where we rededicate, worship, and praise the God that brings freedom. I love Jubilee because Jubilee, when you look at the Jewish tradition, they pulled a ram's horn and the ram's horn was called Jobel, and that's where we get Jubilee. And they would sound resoundingly, Jubilee. The NAACP has summoned us here to sound our ram's horns, our trumpets, for access today. This is not a look-see. This is not just another perfunctory educational time that we come together, eat, listen to music, and hear a great message. But we come to sound our ram's horn to access healthcare, economic parity, political equity, and fair justice system, and to end institutional racism. We did not come here out of habit or to be seen, but to re-energize, refocus, and be recommitted to our collective purpose and mission. Listen, y'all, our fight for freedom has always been grounded in our request and our responses to talking with God. Let's talk to God. Eternal and almighty, divine, righteous, merciful God, we come once again, joining with you, speaking with you, thanking you for the NAACP, all of the organizations who still fight for justice. Thank you, God, for the national and local leaders. God, we pray for the community that crime will be lessened and gotten rid of, economic deprivation, homelessness and hopelessness and despair, depression, God, will be lessened and even eradicated. As we sound our trumpets on this day of Jubilee, renewing us a resounding zeal to renew with a new sense of enthusiasm, a new sense of purpose, a sense of hope, a sense of who we are and who we are ordained to be. God, I ask you right now as I pray aloud that these words are not just words of some guy standing up here on the second day of January, but they will go down and touch the very inner recesses of every person, from those young people sitting here to those that have cooked the meal, to those that are sitting there, that this is a day that we will hold deep inside. But more importantly, when we leave this, we will not only change, but we will change the next person we talk to change a system. God, we give you the praise and the glory. And all of you who are now ready to sound your ram's horn, your trumpet for Jubilee, say thank you, God. Thank you, God. Give God a hand clap of praise as you sound your Jubilee trumpet. Bless you. God bless.
Thank you, Reverend Derrick. And let's just reflect on the sounding of that Jubilee trumpet, that horn, as we sit and await justice, liberation, and equality. 158 years ago, many people sat in the church just like this, waiting and expecting liberty, justice, and equality, and we will get there. So with that, I want to invite everyone. This is a celebration. We do have food that is prepared. We have blessed the food. So if you would follow the direction of our second Vice President, Karen Renee, in orderly proceeding back to the back to get your food, as we will be doing a feeding and program here. So if you would just follow her direction, I think she's going to start with the front table there and proceed orderly back to get your food. And so while we are processing back to get our meal, we have the distinct pleasure of receiving a proclamation from our Congresswoman from the 5th District, Nikema Williams. And so while we are processing to get that food, I do want to acknowledge and read the proclamation. And it reads, House of Representatives Proclamation Tribute to the Atlanta National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Whereas today, January the 2nd, 2023, I join with my friends, family, and 5th Congressional District in celebrating the annual Jubilee celebration for the Atlanta branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Whereas the NAACP, one of the oldest and largest civil rights organizations here in the United States, the Atlanta branch was founded in 1909. Whereas the mission and vision of the NAACP is to ensure political, educational, social, and economic equality rights for all and to eliminate race-based discrimination. Whereas the Atlanta branch of the NAACP advanced the national vision by advocating for social change locally and throughout the state of Georgia. And whereas the Atlanta branch of the NAACP has played an essential role to disrupt inequity, dismantling racism, and accelerating change in key areas including criminal justice, healthcare, education, climate, voting rights, and voter suppression. Whereas, as a representative of Georgia's 5th Congressional District, I am grateful for the Atlanta branch of the NAACP for their amazing public service and commitment to community engagement, as well as to the history of the 5th Congressional District. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Nikema Williams, member of the U.S. House of Representatives, hereby issue this congressional proclamation in recognition of the Atlanta branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. In witness thereof, I set my hand and cause a seal of the United States House of Representatives to be affixed on this. Signed, Nikema Williams, Member of Congress. And we thank, yes, please give her a round of applause. And we always thank our congressional member, Nikema Williams, and all of the elected officials. And at this time, I would like to recognize any past and current elected officials that are here. We are thankful for you joining us today on our Jubilee celebration. So if you are here, I see quite a few of you want to recognize you and thank you for your service. If you would please stand. And so I want to recognize State Representative Tanya Miller. I saw she was standing. Thank you for your service. I want to recognize Councilman Antonio Lewis, who's right there in the back. Thank you for your service. I want to recognize the mayor of this great city, East Point, if she would stand, and thank you for your service, Mayor Ingram. I thought I saw my mayor in the back, the Honorable Shirley Franklin. I want to thank her for all the things that she does, and she will eternally be my mayor. That's my mayor, Shirley Franklin, over there. I also see Representative Kim Schofield. I thought I saw her. Yeah, she's in the back. Thank you. I also see Councilwoman Shropshire. I believe there she is. Thank you for your service, East Point Councilwoman Shropshire. I see a few former elected officials, State Representative William Boddie. I see him. He will be honored later on. Of course, as I said, we have my mayor here. We also have my judge here. And I would be remiss if I did not recognize Chief Magistrate Judge of Fulton County, Cassandra Kirk. Thank you for all the work that you do, Judge Kirk. And I do want to take a moment of personal privilege with Judge Kirk. She is a jurist that is always with the people. Wherever I go, I see Judge Kirk, so I know I'm in good company. So thank you, Judge Kirk, for all that you do. I also want to recognize our elected official, Second Vice President and Councilwoman Karen Renee. She is always on top of everything, so thank you, Karen. A few others that I want to recognize. We also have City Councilwoman Josette Bailey, who is present. Want to recognize her and thank her for the work that she does. And there are a few other dignitaries. Of course, the leader of Too Much Truth, one of the people that actually brought me into this movement, of course, from the very first days of my protesting, that would be Derrick Boazman, who has done such phenomenal work in the community. We also have the pastor of this house, Pastor Holman. I would like to recognize him. I thought sorry, Pastor Stinson, but I wanted to recognize Pastor Holman. I'm sorry. There he is. And then, of course, we have the bishop, my bishop, He's done such phenomenal work with the 6th District. Bishop Reginald Jackson, who is present, always on the front line. And of course, we have to recognize Yvonne Brooks, who's the president of the AFL-CIO. We thank labor for all of the work that labor does, and we would not be where we are without labor. So thank you for being here this morning. Did I miss anybody? I did get a sign-in sheet, so if I missed anybody, charge it to my head and not my heart. We appreciate every single person that is here, especially our distinguished guest. Hearing that I did not miss anybody, okay. And so we are processing in the back to get our food, and please make sure that you enjoy the wonderful food that has been prepared for us as we continue to build in 2023. With that, I would turn it over to the choir for a selection as we continue to press on, as this is going to be a working session. And so I would turn it over to them. Go ahead.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the door path has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn has died, yet with the steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which
And so now as we proceed through the program, I would like to call upon Reverend Dr. Michael Stinson, who is the pastor of this church, for a welcome. And if he is not present, then a member or an official with the church who would like to give a welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Bernita Waller, and I'm the chair of the worship committee here, so it's my pleasure on behalf of our pastor to welcome you here and to see all the wonderful glowing faces and learn about everything that we are accomplishing through this esteemed organization. So I welcome you. Please continue to have a good time, and if you need anything, see me or anyone else here. Thank you.
And again, thank you to Pastor Stinson for opening the doors of the church for the NAACP. We really, really appreciate you. And so at this point in the program, I am to bring greetings, but I will be remiss if I did not bring greetings from the president of the Atlanta branch of the NAACP. So if you give me a moment, I will read the greetings from President Rose. Season's greetings and welcome to all of our guests on our annual celebration and recognition of Emancipation Day. I regret that I cannot be there to welcome you personally, but I'm recovering from a recent illness. Thank you to our special guests and honorees, to our guest speaker, Derrick Boazman. A special thanks for your participation today. And to my ever faithful and hardworking Atlanta executive team, I am eternally grateful. Thank you also to Reverend Dr. Michael Stinson and the members of East Point's First Mallalieu United Methodist Church for opening your doors to us. God's richest blessing to each and every one of you for a prosperous and healthy new year. I also want to bring you greetings from our National Board Chair and our CEO and President, Derrick Johnson. We are in the process of continuing 113 years of continuous advocacy on the battlefield. So on behalf of Leon Russell, our National Board Chair, and our President, Derrick Johnson, we bring you greetings. And as the President of the Georgia State Conference, I bring you greetings. You know, many times and many years, we have sat expecting justice, liberty, and equity. And the greetings I bring to you from the Georgia State Conference on this 2023 year is we are no longer waiting, expecting, or praying for justice, equity, and accountability. We are demanding it. So as we push forward into a new year, into a new horizon, we are reaffirming our dedication as the boldest, the coldest, the oldest, the most cussed and discussed organization in this country. No longer will we sit on the sidelines and allow injustices to happen to brown and black folks, but particularly for the black people. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired. So as the 13th president of the state conference of the Georgia NAACP, I'm sending a message. The message is if you put your hands on our people, you put your hands on our votes, you put your hands on our health care, you can expect to see and hear from us in the streets, in the suites, in the courthouses, and in all of the houses of power both in Atlanta and in Washington. So again, we are done dying. You know, last year, we had to send a message to Travis and Gregory McMichael and William Roddy Bryant.
All right.
This year, we're sending a message to Jackie Johnson. Last year, we had to send a message to Sung Kim. This year, we sending a loud message to all of the police officers who violate the public trust. Again, we're not anti-law enforcement, we're pro-justice. This year, we are sending a message to all of the people who thought it was a good idea to suppress black people's voices, both at the courthouses and at the polling precincts. But one thing I can report to you as we bring greetings on this Jubilee Day, the oldest civil rights organization in America is alive and well.
All right.
We are very much relevant. All you have to do is turn the pages back to last month and that historic runoff election. So I just want to thank this branch. I want to thank all 180 branches of the association for doing what the association has always done. That's fight for freedom and stand on the breach. Sometimes it feels like we're the only ones on the breach. But trust me, we are on that breach. And we invite you to join us in being on the breach. Now, I know if Richard was here, and I'm sure he's watching, he would say, troublemaker number 2, I need you to deliver a message from troublemaker number 1. Troublemaker number 1 in 2023 will be getting in some good and necessary trouble, like we always do. But what our request in this greeting is that y'all join us in this good and necessary trouble. Because as I sit up here with these young people, I look into their eyes and I think to myself, what is their future going to be? Because you know, one thing about the NAACP, we don't focus on the stuff that we've done in the past. And trust me, we can lay off a list of stuff for 113 years that we've done. But we focus on their future. You know, people always ask me, why do y'all fight so hard? And I was with my daughter yesterday. She's 14. And I looked into her eyes and I thought to myself, I was the first person in my family born with all of my rights. I'll be darned if I'm the last. You know, it's not about, you know, making noise just for the sake of making noise. It's about making sure that the rights that our ancestors fought, bled, and died for are passed on to the next generation. So the greetings I want to leave with you is this. We have 2 things we have to do. 1, we have to earn the respect of our ancestors. But 2, we also have to earn the respect of our descendants. And so we're not going to lean on the work that John Dale did. We're not going to lean on the work that W.E.B. Du Bois did. We're not going to lean on the work that Julian Bond did. We are going to blaze a new future that speaks to the traditions of the past but enhances rights. So when the Supreme Court decides to hear the voting rights case this term, or when the Supreme Court decides to hear the affirmative action case this term, we will be standing outside and inside to remind them that we are Harriet's wildest dreams. We are the descendants of Frederick. We are Martin's children. And if you think that we are going backwards, you have another thing coming. So again, as the president of the Georgia State Conference, as one of the leaders of the new freedom fighters, we are on the front lines. We're not taking one step back. And we have a message for all of those individuals who think this is 1850 or 1950. This is 2023. If you really want to try to suppress our votes, we will turn out en masse. If you really want to put your knee on our neck, we will turn out en masse. And for the elected officials, I love all of you. But if you are in smoke-filled rooms, dividing up black neighborhoods, allowing for voter suppression to go unchecked, if you wear a black robe and send black folks to prison but don't mete out the same justice to everybody else, if you want to focus on RICO and not focus on the real racketeer, then I got a problem with that. And when I have a problem with that, we got 180 branches that got a problem with that, because we speak for 3.3 million people in this state. So in 2023, we're going to do exactly what we did in 2022. We're going to call people out. We're going to pull them to the carpet. If you don't do the will of the voters, expect to see us not just in November, but to see us next week. I'm Attorney Gerald Griggs, president of the Georgia State Conference, and this state conference is very strong and very, very much alive. We are ready to fight, and we know how to win. When we fight, we win. So thank you. That's the greetings on behalf of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People and the Georgia State Conference. So we're going to shift in the program. We are honored to have so many of our faith leaders from all walks and all faiths. It is my honor to call upon Rabbi Lauren Cohen for a reading of the Old Testament.
Reverend Durley, you knew what you were talking about. I'm sure no one's ever told you that before. When you said that we blow the horn on the Jubilee year, we also blow it every New Year, so therefore let that trumpet be blown loud. Happy New Year, good morning. In Hebrew, we say Boker Tov, and the response is Boker Or, which means a meaning of light. So Boker Tov, thank you. My brothers and sisters in humanity and in the pursuit of justice, what an honor and joy it is to be here today with you, in prayer, in song, in celebration, and in hope. The Torah is filled with so many wise teachings, but today I will share three, one from each of the first three books of Moses. Genesis 1:26 says, "Let us make humans in our image after our own likeness." This teaches us humanity. Humankind is created in God's image. Every single person in the world is imbued with a bit of God, literally, with a spark of the divine. Everyone and anyone, no matter their religion, ethnicity, race, economic class, gender identity or expression, nationality, or ability, deserves respect, kindness, and compassion. Exodus 2:22 says, "We were strangers in a strange land." This teaches us empathy. The rabbis of the Talmud teach that this statement is so important. It is said no less than 36 times in the Torah. We all equally know the highs and lows of life. Everyone knows joy and everyone knows pain. When we are high up on a mountaintop, we must remember what it feels like to be down in the valley. At those moments, especially at those moments, we have to help our fellow travelers in this journey of life to navigate those low points. Leviticus 19:18 says, "Love your neighbor as yourself." This teaches compassion. This statement is so important that it is believed that if you unroll the Torah from one end to end, it will appear in the middle of the innermost middle column. We know the converse of this as the golden rule. What is hateful to you, do not do to another. Simply, we are all created at the same time. We all came to this world at the same time. We must care for each other and share with each other. On this great morning of possibilities, let us remember the 7 days of creation. At the end of each day, God says, there was evening, there was morning, a first day. Notice how our sacred text doesn't say the first day. Every day is a new opportunity for creation, another opportunity to get it right, to go through this world with each other gently and peacefully. To that end and that beginning, may this be our first day, Boker Tov.
Thank you, Rabbi Cohn, for that reading from the Old Testament. Now we would call upon Reverend Leon Matthews for our New Testament scripture reading.
Listen to these words from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 4, verses 16 through 21. These are familiar words that speaks profoundly for today and what we're about as an organization, the words of Jesus. Luke. When he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, as was his custom. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recover of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor, 2023. He rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of all in the synagogue were fixed on him. Then he began to say to them, "Today, this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearings." Luke chapter 4, verses 16 through 21. May blessings spring forth from the reading of God's word. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Matthews, for that reading from the New Testament. Now we will have a reading from the Quran by Imam Sobro Mansour. Is Imam Mansour present? Okay, well, we will move on, and we thank him in his absence. We would now call upon the choir for a musical selection. Turn it over to the choir.
Leave all your problems on the outside. To be consumed with the Holy Ghost fire. Open up your mouth and lift the name of Jesus higher. Say, are you ready? For the chains that come from the enemy are utterly destroyed when the praises ring. So say, thank you, Jesus. He's exhausted forever. So no one above you. Let's put your hands together I know it might be tough to get your praise on. Trials of life may keep you all week long. To be consumed with the Holy Ghost fire. Open up your mouth and lift the name of Jesus higher. Say, are you ready? For the chains that come from the enemy are utterly destroyed when the praises ring. Say, are you ready? Chains that come from the enemy are at your disposal when the praises ring. Say, praise up, sing your praise up, praise up, praise up, sing your praise up, praise up, praise up, sing your praise up. 'Cause he's here right now. Raise up, sing your praise up, praise up, raise up, sing your praise, sing your praise up, raise up, sing your praise up, 'cause he's here right now. Raise up, sing your praise up, raise up, sing your praise up, raise up, sing your praise up, 'cause he's here right now. Say, are you ready? Are you ready? For the chains that bind of the enemy are at your disposal when the praises ring. Yeah. Are you ready? For the chains that bind of the enemy are at your disposal when the praises ring. Raise up, raise up.
Thank you to the choir, and let's give them another round of applause. Thank you for that beautiful musical selection. And so at this time, it gives me distinct honor to recognize one of the most profound pioneers and continuing movement activists here in Atlanta. She is the president of Georgia Stand Up, founder of Georgia Stand Up, and she will bring our occasion, Miss Deborah Scott.
Good morning. When we vote, we win. What? When we vote, we win. When we vote, we won, y'all. Did we win? Give yourselves a round of applause. We won. How do you know when you won? How do you know when you won, young people? How do you know? What happens when you win? You get a prize. You get a prize, right? So we have a prize, right? We get a prize. What do we get? We got a black senator. First time ever in the state of Georgia elected for a full term, right? You did that. Say, we did that. We did that. We did that together. The only way that was done is because black women, say black women, did their thing. Black men voted. And black youth turned out. And we did that, right? So when we vote, we win. So when our rights are under attack, what do we do? What do we do? Okay, so young people, I need you to hear this. When our votes are under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. All right, you got me? You with me? Okay, when I say it, you all come with me. All right, so the year was 1863. Can you imagine? 1863. Now, I know we are all descendants of slaves, or most of us, and some of us, right? So 1863, in January, was it cold? It was cold, right? Did we have all the health care we needed? No. Did we have the good jobs that we needed? Did we have our families intact like we needed them to be? Did we have elected officials that were representing us? No. And so that was almost 160 years ago, if I got the math right. Is that right? So have we come that far? Have we really come that far? Now, you all don't remember slavery, and we don't either, but it's in our genes and in our DNA, right? We feel it, right? So today, we come once again to this place to recommit ourselves. As Gerald said, we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. I wonder what they were dreaming about that day. I wonder if they said that reproductive justice will be on the ballot. I wonder if they said that voting rights will be under attack in 2023. I wonder if they said we would have a string of black elected officials in this metropolitan area, and then it might get snatched away. I wonder if they said that we will go back to sleep after we win major elections and not pay attention to the municipal elections. I wonder if they said if we keep dividing them, if they keep dividing us, will we fall? Will we fail? United we stand, divided we fall. The way in which we work together in this election season with labor, where's labor? Labor, thank you. You all knocked on doors. You called your members. You got them on the right side of the issue and you got them out to vote. Thank you, labor. Thank you, labor. Churches, faith works, churches. You all organize churches. There's two kinds of power. There's organized people and there's organized money, right? And the churches represent both. And you all organize churches to get your people out. And I tell you that NAACP, that baddest, boldest organization on the block, forever, work together with organizations on the ground in each and every community around the state. So it wasn't about the election. It's about the power. Say power. Power. Guess who has it? We do. Say we have the power. We have the power. And we know we have the power because if not, they wouldn't be so willing to do whatever it takes to take it. We're the only ones that don't know how powerful we are. The rest of the world is scared of us or trying to emulate us. They've convinced us that we don't have the power that we have. So the way we have to show up is we have to stand up, we have to organize, we have to mobilize, we have to strategize, we have to be at the state capitol in January. Because it's not enough to elect elected officials on the national level. If we don't come all the way down, we have to come to the state level, we have to come to the city and the county level, because that's how policy is getting made. It's not about the people and the politicians that supposedly or should represent us. It's about the power that that office holds to make practical decisions for your lives. So we're just going to let them make policy for us and not get in good trouble and get in the way? So if you registered people to vote, raise your hand. Yes. If you educated people to go out and vote, raise your hand. If you partied at the polls with us, raise your hand, right? If you made sure other people got out to vote, raise your hand. If you stood on the front line of voter suppression, like many of us that got arrested a couple of times in D.C., raise your hand. If you have been on the battlefield, Reverend Durley, in the battle, in the middle of the battle, raise your hand. All right. So if you're willing to do it again, raise your hand. I don't see all the hands up. Are you willing to stand in the way and get in good trouble? Are you willing? Yeah, I think so. So part of what today's commitment is, this is a commitment ceremony. This is a commit. Did you know that? This is a commitment ceremony. We come here every year to recommit to the struggle, to recommit to the movement, to recommit to these young people, to recommit to our ancestors. So when our rights are under attack, what do? Oh, y'all missed your cue. When our rights are under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. 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 Okay, you missed the word. It's called stand up and fight back. Okay, when our rights are under attack, we have to show up at the Capitol. When our rights are under attack, we have to show up at City Hall. I see them city council members in here. Y'all got some issues. I saw it on the front page of the paper the other day, right? So whether it's East Point, and I see you, Mayor, no point like East Point, all points lead here, right? Because this is the epicenter of the political South, right here, in this point, East Point. Everybody in the world is watching Georgia. And then when you circle into Georgia, then they're watching the Atlanta metropolitan area. But then we know the secret sauce happened in East Point. Georgia Stand-Up is down the street. NAACP is down the street. People's Agenda is down the street. Labor's down the street. This is it, y'all. So look at each other. You're the ones that our ancestors have prayed for and have been waiting for. It's you. Did you know that? It was you. Some of us are chosen to this work. Some of us are called to this work, but the work calls us, and you are chosen for this season. Say, I'm chosen. I'm chosen for this season. I am chosen. So when our rights are under attack, what do? What do? When our rights are under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. What do? Peace and power.
Y'all, I felt like going outside for a minute there. Y'all don't understand. You're in the presence of activists. This is what we do. And so I just love Deborah Scott. I mean, the work that they are doing at Georgia Stand Up to mobilize young people is just phenomenal, and it's just an honor to be around her and around so many freedom fighters. So we're going to move on in the program to the message from the NAACP. And it's fitting that it comes right after Deborah Scott just gave that charge, because the message from the NAACP, which was put out yesterday, was the new acronym Thrive. And the reason why they've chosen Thrive is because that is the call from the association, that we thrive, that we push through, that we do more, that we elevate higher, that, you know, some of the people on the internet, we vibrate higher. And so what I'm asking on behalf of the NAACP is that we do exactly what Deborah just said. Listen, y'all, we didn't get to where we are 158 years later by sitting down and hoping, by praying and dreaming. You know, faith without works is what? being alone. And so we are going to have to push to make sure that these babies thrive. Because they're not the future, they're the right now. They're the right now. And so as we sit in this room and we soak in this Jubilee celebration, we're calling people in because it's going to take all of us. It's like Deborah just said, we are the people we've been waiting on. Let me be clear with y'all. Ain't nobody coming with a cape from the sky. There is somebody who's going to come from the sky, but he's expecting us to do the work. And we have to do the work. Sometimes the work is going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes you're going to have to speak truth to power. Sometimes people just not going to like you. And that's fine. If you're doing the work and you are speaking truth to power, your ancestors going to like you. And your descendants are going to really appreciate you. So let me take you back a little ways since we're talking about 158 years. I want to take y'all back 158 years to a small plantation in middle Georgia. I imagine that there was a worker in the field whose last name was Griggs after his master. And as he was picking that cotton, he was looking upon the annals of history to 158 years later. And he imagined that his great-great-great-great-grandson would be a civil rights attorney who would stand on the front lines and fight for justice. That was my great-great-grandfather's dream. But what my dream is for my great-great-great-great-grandson or daughter is that we've achieved the goal. It's time out for us hoping and praying that it's going to happen. We need to pray, thank God that it's happened, and make it happen. So when the Georgia State Assembly convenes later on this month, we need to send a message. Georgia didn't turn blue, it turned black. Am I wrong? So the black folks got something to say. You know, there was politicians going around the state. They had buses. We had a bus too. And they were making promises. They were making promises in Statesboro. They were making promises in Athens. They were making promises in Albany. They were making promises all over this state. Okay. Now we're gonna make you live up to them promises. We're gonna make you fully fund health care. We're gonna make you fully fund education. We're gonna make you actually stand for voter integrity. Because the only voter fraud that was going on is the fraud in Washington. The fraud that called into this state. The only fraud that was going on is the big lie. And so the message is this, y'all. We gotta be about that action. You know, we in East Point, right down the street from College Park. You know, there was some great hip-hop pioneers that came from this area. Two of them, Outkast, Andre, and Big Boy. And I can remember Players Ball coming out, and the sound, it just moved you, right? But the message moved you as well. Y'all, the South got something to say. All eyes are on the South. All eyes are on Georgia. All eyes are on the black folks in Georgia. And so as much as I am proud to call my frat brother the first African-American senator from this great state, from this red clay, a man born in in Savannah, who matriculated to Morehouse College and graduated and took over Ebenezer, and now is doing great things in Washington. But we gotta have more of that. He's not gonna be the only one. We need black women to lead as they always have been leading. And we need to fully appreciate them. So here's my message. I read the paper yesterday. I got some phone calls yesterday. City of Atlanta. If we're gonna be the birthplace of civil rights, we don't need to be removing black women from leadership positions. State of Georgia. If we really are the birthplace of Martin, the home of John, we don't need to be removing access to the ballot. You know, there's a governor who's been going around Georgia talking to black folks, making promises to black people. Why don't you come sit down with the actual black leaders and we can map forward a plan for all of Georgia? Because, you know, the association, we get tired of hearing about working class people and laborers, but it just seemed like those laborers are not people of color. Didn't we build this state? I could have sworn we built this state, Derrick. Didn't we build the state? Okay. Well, it's time for the people that built the state to reap the benefits of their labor. And so this is what we're going to do. We are going to convene together, as we are doing right now, in a mass meeting. And we are going to map out the plan for 2023. And then when they convene in the people's house, which is our house, we're going to convene in that house. And we're going to clean out the trash that's in the house. You know, the last time I went down to the Gold Dome, I looked around at the pictures on the wall. You know, and being a Georgian, I didn't see too many Georgians in there. I just saw a whole bunch of old, white men. But the last I checked, there were black women, there were black men, there were native Georgians. Where is the representation of us? So I think we need to fill that body with all the black people that showed up in 2020, in 2021, in 2022. So the message is, later on this month, we're going to convene at the Gold Dome. And we are going to demand policy that speaks to all those voters that showed up in November and December. So with that, I want to shift to the musical selection by Cedric McMillan. I think he's ready, and we will continue this program.
Join in if you want to. I think this is a familiar song for everyone. So true and fitting for the occasion. Oh, yeah. Tragedies are commonplace. All kinds of diseases, people slipping away. Economy's down, people can't get enough pay. But as for me, all I can say is thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me. Folks without homes, living on the streets, and the drug habits, some say, they just can't be beat. Muggers and robbers, no place seems to be safe, but you've been my protection every step of the way. And I want to say thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me. It could have been me outdoors with no food, no clothes, left alone without a friend. Another tragic number with a tragic end. But you did see fit to lead me the things to be. Cause every day of your power, you keep on blessing me. And I want to say thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me. It could have been me outdoors with no food, no clothes, left alone without a friend, with a tragic number, with a tragic end. But you did see fit to lead me one of those things. Cause you every day of your power, you're keeping me. And I want to say for all you done for me. Yeah, for all you done for me. Thank you.
Could y'all give Cedric another round of applause for that wonderful selection? There are a couple other people that I want to recognize that are here before we introduce our speaker, our keynote speaker. I want to recognize Primus James. He's the most worshipful Grand Master of the Prince Hall Masons. Primus, thank you for being here. And then also the Poet Laureate of Atlanta. My man, Hank Stewart, is in the back. Thank you, Hank, for being here. And so it is with my distinct pleasure that I get to introduce my brother in the struggle, one of the leading voices in Atlanta on all issues. And I want to read a little bit of his bio here. Derrick Boazman is a native Atlantan. He's a former Atlanta City Councilman, journalist, community organizer, has built a strong reputation for helping colleges and universities, corporations, nonprofit groups, and individuals succeed. Actively involved in both community and politics, Mr. Boazman was elected to Atlanta's City Council in 1997 and was reelected for a second term in 2001. Mr. Boazman contends that education is an equalizer and serves as a parent-teacher officer at Price Middle School and as a member of the PTA at Perkinson Elementary School. He is also active with the United Youth Adult Conference. Mr. Boazman is a member of the greatest fraternity on earth, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Okay, knew that was gonna ruffle some people's feathers. And is active with the Prince Hall affiliated Masons, where he's attained the 33 degree. Mr. Derrick Boazman is a member of New Calvary Missionary Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's also recently inducted into the National Black Radio Hall of Fame. So give him a round of applause, as the next voice you will hear will be Derrick Boazman.
It is indeed an honor. I count it a high privilege and a pleasure to be here with the NAACP, but most importantly, to be in church. All that I am, all that I ever hoped to be, was because at 12 years old, my Aunt Martha took me to church. And so whether you came thinking you were going to hear from a radio commentator, if you thought you were going to hear from a community activist, and you will, I am not so crazy as to not acknowledge the source of my health and my strength. I understand that we are in church while we may be down in the cafeteria part of the church. We're still in church. When the singer sung, "It could have been me," y'all just sit there. So I'm going to try it one more time. It could have been you. Outdoors with no food or clothes. And for that reason alone, you ought to be thankful and grateful on this Jubilee Day. Because on your way here, you passed by somebody who wished that they were sitting in your very seat. I would dare not acknowledge God. I got much to thank him for. And we do too if you got good enough sense. The preacher used to say, look, I can think of 10 reasons why you should thank God every day. Let me give you the first one, that he woke you up this morning. Let me give you the second one, that he woke you up this morning. In case that wasn't good enough, he woke you up this morning. And so he woke you up this morning, started you on your way, gave you a reasonable portion of your health and strength, and sent you down here on Jubilee Day. Now, you've had some strong words now. I'm just going to tell you, I know how this works. I'm going to be very short. The program been long, and y'all got things to do. You really didn't come to hear me. You done paid you $100. So if what I say is about to offend you, you can go on and leave. They done already paid me. I done got everything they gave me. You done ate. And ate good. But when Deborah Scott got up here, a friend of more than 35 years, we met when both of us was little students over in the AU Center. She may be, I told her, I don't know, I thought she was older than me, but I know we about the same age. You don't graduate into leadership. You pick up the mantle and decide, today I'm going to lead. If you study the life of great leaders, Dr. King then started leading when he was 39 years old. John Lewis wrote a letter to Dr. King when he was 16, said, how do I get involved with the movement that I see you're doing? I'm down in Troy, Alabama, but I'm tired of preaching to chickens. Malcolm, Medgar, Martin, none of them started when they were 30s. It was born in them. So I just want to walk you through it to the established protocol. And to all of those who have come from near and far, to Bishop Jackson and my good friend, Reverend Matthews, good to see you, sitting right behind me. And you're important because I'm going to need you in just a second. I was going to tell you about hanging your harp on a willow tree. But what Reverend Matthews said was more important. I'm going to need you to turn back to that scripture because I need you to give me those 4 points, and I'm going to hit them real fast, because they become very relevant. We talk about Jubilee Day, January 1st, 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation signed, and some of us are misinterpreters of history. We think that it was signed because Lincoln so loved black people. That's not the case, folks. Lincoln said, if I could preserve the Union and keep slavery as an institution, I would do it. But there was something stirring in the souls of black folks that said, we're going to either be free or we're going to be dead. Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to the Lord and be free. We see what's happening. Lincoln understood if he was going to preserve the Union, he needed some serious fighters. And black people, black men looked around, not only black men, black women. I want you to know, if you want to work on the plan, you get some men together, but if you want to execute a plan, you better have some sisters around. I'll get to the notion of Atlanta City Council a little bit later on. Y'all don't let me leave without saying something about that, okay? Y'all remind me, just if I leave and get ready to walk off this stage, just say, what about the sisters? And so Lincoln says, I need some peculiar kind of fighters because these that I'm putting out here, they're not very good at fighting. We're losing. And then the brothers remembered the scripture, because long before the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, Bishop, there was a man called Richard Allen who was up in Philadelphia and said, look, I want to worship God in his honesty and authenticity, and I just want to come in here with what my white colleagues and worship him in the church. They told him, no, no, no. Now, if you want to worship your God, you got to either go up in the balcony or outside. He said, no, that ain't good enough. If there's one God, one faith, one baptism, then we, black and white together, should be holding hand and praying together. They said, no, no, no. So in 1816, he walked out and said, let me create a strand of this religion that allows us to worship God in his Afrocentricity and in a way that's respectful to who we are. And he created the African Methodist Episcopal Church, a division of the United Methodist Church. And so is there no doubt, it's no wonder that even in 2023, you only have a handful of bishops if you have one in the United Methodist Church. I don't care nothing about what your religion is. I'm just talking facts. If I err in any way, then come and correct me. Because you should know the truth, and the truth should do what? Your truth should do what? Some of you don't want to be set free because you don't want to hear too much of the truth. You want to be lied to. But I ain't here for that. It's Jubilee Day. We got something to celebrate here in Georgia. Is a special kind of place. Georgia is a peculiar place. We sent a young Jew and a black man to the United States Senate in a Republican state. That's something to celebrate. Deborah Scott said, when we fight, we win. You ain't going to get away from fighting. That has been our history. Everything that we won, every victory won by the NAACP wasn't because they wrote nice letters to people. George Wallace didn't care nothing about your nice letter. Herman Tabbins didn't care nothing about your nice letter. Plenty of people sent nice letters. Public policy is made in the suites and in the streets. But in 1863, this document is signed, which takes its root from a Latin word, emancipare, which means to free from hand, but not from control. And so you free from hand, but free to do what? Free to go and do what and for what reason? Given no resources, just told to leave. But even with that, the ingenuity and the love that black people have for themselves, just a few short years later, we begin to build institutions. It's time for some new institution builders. You look at the founding of most of your historically black colleges and universities from 1863, you see the emergence of organizations a few years after that. Morehouse College, Spelman College, Morris Brown, Wilberforce. They all take their origin just a few years afterwards because we understood if you give us access to education and proper training, that we can go out and build a new world. So Black Wall Street emerges from that. Now, Black Wall Street did not disappear because of gentrification. Black Wall Street began to disappear because the other dominant culture began to be jealous. When you begin to make strides, when you begin to do self-determination, Kujichagulia, when you begin to assert that you have a right in order to live and breathe and walk in a free and a warmer sun, there's always going to be those who come to oppose you. That's why we sing the song, Stormy the Road We Trod. Bitter the chastening rod felt in the days when hope unborn had died. As we sung it, I was still sitting there these generations later with tears running down my eyes, realizing we've come a long ways. We made tremendous progress. But you cannot get tired in don't get weary in well-doing. Even in spite of the Emancipation Proclamation being signed, the folks down in Texas said, oh, we didn't get the message. Another lie of history. They got the message. They knew exactly what that meant. Juneteenth came about because they were recalcitrant. Who would want to give up free labor? I had some people come clean my house up for the holidays. When they got through, they said, here's the invoice. I wish that I could tell them Merry Christmas, but I needed y'all to do that for me for free. A fight would have broke out in my living room when I told them, who don't want free labor? So they pretended as if they didn't get the message, and we went right along with the lie. We celebrate Juneteenth, but we had to tell the truth about it. They got the message there, but Texas, the Lone Star State, the only state in the union that don't fly a regular flag, they say we are singularly different. We are a former territory of Mexico, but we don't want no Mexicans here. Don't bring nobody across the border. Although this is their original land, we don't want them across the border. And you must do something, so we'll ship them to Kamala Harris' house over the Christmas holiday. These are the same people who understood that we were free but refused to give up until General Garden Granger showed up 2 days later. 2 years later, he stayed there for 2 days. He said, now look, I'm begging y'all to let these enslaved Africans go. Now you need to let them go. Not only did he say that, but the point of Juneteenth was that he said you also must allow them access to everything that white folks have access to. They said, oh, no, we'll let them go now. Because we not perfected the system called Jim Crow after that. We have convict leasing. We have another program to put them in now. And so then he said, well, again, you got 2 days. And then about 1,800 troops showed up 2 days later by boat. When the troops got off, they said, okay, well, look, they didn't come off on them with a greeting and salutation. They came with guns. And said, now, either you're going to let them go, because we heard one of your former leaders say, give them liberty or give them what? Yeah. We're here to give you exactly that if you don't let these folk go. And that's how that went. It wasn't that they all of a sudden decided you need to have these rights. And so ours have been a struggle for the longest. Church formed, institutions formed. 1909, NAACP has to be formed. Why would we need an NAACP if we had equality and equal rights? It was necessary because those who have possessed and had power over you never will give up that power, even in 2023. And so we have to learn how to be resilient on this Jubilee Day. We have to learn a charge to keep we have. We have to learn that if we don't have a spiritual basis to do this work, we will get lost. If we don't believe that if God be for you, who can be against you and win? If that's those spiritual imperative that keeps us fighting, then we'll just sit back. And I'm here to let you know that you cannot remain silent, as Dr. King said, on things that matters. Your silence grant consent to those who want to do whatever they want to do. And I am convinced more than ever before that we are being way too silent on things that matter in our society and in our world. And I'm here to also tell you that God cannot use no coward soldier. If you're scared, stay at home. Because there is still a radical remnant of us who don't care what the price is. I believe in all my soul and being before I be a slave. Now, I'm just speaking for me. I can't speak for nobody else in here. Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to the Lord and be free. I think I finally just got off bond from my last charge. But I'm so looking forward to going again. I understand politics, and politics has its place. And I also believe, Pastor, that we have to pray for those who are in authority over us. Because, you know, all of these struggles, we would often say, if you just give us the ballot, we will elect men and women of substance and those who understand our historical struggle. We'll make sure that we understand those who knew what the Emancipation Proclamation was all about and what Jubilee Day is all about. We did not elect you to go in the back and cut deals against the best interests of our people. We didn't elect you to go and do us worse than the other folks did. We did not elect you to go in and scratch where nothing itching, dance when there's no tune been played. We elect you to be bold and courageous and fearless and righteous and prayerful and thoughtful. And we also elected you to come check in with your people. Right after I left City Council, they passed a bill. I ain't gonna go up. I'm gonna stay under my 2 or 3 minutes. I ain't got but 2 or 3 more minutes. I may not even get to you, Reverend Matthew, because the Spirit done took me all somewhere else. City Council passed a bill that said even they didn't even want to hear from you for your 2 minutes. You know, you get 2 minutes to talk on any subject now. This is Atlanta City Council. I don't know if any of them in here, but if they are, I ain't scared. I'm 6'3" and 175 pounds. I ain't scared of nothing in here. Don't y'all be laughing at my 175 pounds. That's what's on my vision board. Don't get mad at me. And you put 175 pounds on your vision board too. We claiming it. Speak it into existence. Speak those things which are not as if they are. We won't even take your 2 minutes. I said, hold on now. These are some of the same people who just came through election. I'm trying to worship at church. Here you are go jumping in the pulpit at my church. Because folk like Pastor Matthews don't want to be discourteous. He'd be nice to him, Bishop, and he let him, okay, come on. We never seen you before. You jump up there giving honor to God who's the head of my life. And then I said, let me go watch and see what he passed and see if God really is heading this up. I had to let him know now. When you remember when you came to church and you said God was the head of it? Well, God said that if you're poor, then I'm supposed to do something for you. When you were naked, I gave you clothes. I didn't criminalize the homeless. I did not criminalize the church. I had a church call me and say, look, we packed our food up because we were told we need a permit to feed the hungry. I had to run them back to what Reverend Matthews said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. And he told me to sit at liberty the captives. And if a man is captive to hunger, then I have a moral obligation and responsibility to feed him. I didn't want to cuss the church people out. But I told them, if you all are scared, tell me where you are. I'll meet you in my car and take the food down to the homeless. Because there's a book that's greater than the code of ordinance that I got to be guided by. So every now and then you have to be willing to go against contemporary thought and contemporary laws. Because I'd rather be out of favor with man and be favored by God than be out of favor with God and favored by men. So I told them, y'all don't get y'all chicken livered self back down there and feed them hungry people. Because that's what God will have you to do. And if you're scared, say you're scared, and I'll come down there and feed them. Sit at liberty the captives. Some of y'all got nervous when they said we're going to do no cash bond. We got homeless people been sitting in jail for 4 or 5 months because they don't have $100. We got mentally ill people who this government and this state will not even open up mental health centers. And we have a pandemic of mental illness and they won't open up centers. They'll put them in the county jail. But guess what? The homeless person don't care nothing about going to the county jail. He get 3 hots in a cot. I want to go to jail. But it's our responsibility to get them mental health services. We got to advocate for that too. I tell them the great tragedy of this country is we have Vietnam and other veterans living under bridges. They lost their minds so that you could keep yours. They lost their minds in Saigon and Desert Storm and all these other places so that you could keep yours. Now they come home and they living on a bridge. I was a conscientious objector. All 3 of my brothers served. I was a conscientious objector. I refused to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in the 8th grade. True. Because certain parts of it, I said, how did that apply to my people? That's some great words written. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There's no greater words been ever written in the language of this land. The problem with that is when it was written, you were being held as chattel slaves. So they understood that it wasn't self-evident to them that you were even a human being. In fact, you were 3/5 of a human being. That you had no rights that a white man had to respect. And we thought we overturned that by law and by legal standing with Plessy versus Ferguson and other laws. But then if I have no right that you have to respect, well, why is Sandra Bland dead? Why is Philando Castile dead? We can call the road. Why are all of these people dead on the side of the road? If you had inalienable rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We got a charge to keep, my dear friends. And on this Jubilee Day, let us not get weary in well-doing. Let us understand that we're all we got, but we're all we need. When we unite, the power of our unity is something special. The power of our unity produces change. I understand, you know, I don't beat up on elected officials. I call them, and I talk to them, and I try to tell them now, you know, I used to always like when people come down to the meeting when I was on city council, Madam Mayor, tell them, you don't vote for this. And Sheriff Franklin, another one like that, she was, you know, little piece of leather, but well put together. We didn't always agree there. And I would tell people she's a very worthy adversary. You better eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner before you come playing around with her. Because she about it. But I loved her because she rebuilt the underground of this city. So the forward progress that you see this city make, you need to thank that lady over there. Because she did what was unpopular. Nobody wanted to do it. You know, I'm going to get to the point, and then I ain't going to even ask you, Rev, I'm done. Because the bishop said, oh, this is already done, went too long. I heard you, Bishop. And the presiding prelate of the 6th Episcopal District is my friend. And a friend of my friend, Martin Odom, told me before he even got here, he said, boy, y'all getting a firestorm. I said, Lord, we need a righteous fire. Not the one that Sherman brought, but we do need a righteous fire. And he was not playing. He does not play around. Play the radio, but don't play with him. What about the women? Let me say this. You know, historically, we've never had a problem with women as leaders. We never had a problem. Brother, actually, where you get this that you're wearing? I bought this in South Africa. Every year I go to Africa. I'll be going to Ghana this year in May. I go for my birthday every year and take a delegation of people. But when you go up into Egypt, you study one of the most successful pharaohs with Hatshepsut, who was a woman. She's a woman, but a warrior, a lady, but a lion. And we never had an issue with women. Shirley Franklin broke the mold to become the first black woman elected mayor in a major city in the South. She don't get the credit she should get. If she was a man and had done what she done, we would have statues all around this city for that woman. All right? And I'm saying that as one who didn't always agree with her. But it's true. All of these high rises you see being built, all of these condos, all of these buildings that's being built, with the infrastructure we had in the early 2000s, the sewer capacity would have not allowed that. All right? So we have a city council president. Is he here? Okay, I'm going to call him. It's been the holidays. There are African-American women who have held the position of leadership. Representation matters now. What our children see, I want these young girls to look at that mayor and Mayor Ingram Holiday and all of these women on city council and say, I can do that. The reason I can do it because Mayor Holiday did it, Mayor Franklin did it, all of these, Karen Renee is doing it. I can do that. Representation matter when little black girls. I just saw an interview, I don't know if you saw it, of the little boy. You remember when President Obama first got elected and he bent over to let this kid rub his hair because the child was looking at him, and he looked at the office and everything. He said, wow, are you real? And President Obama, being the great father, humanitarian, and understanding the power of the moment, bent over and said, feel my hair and then feel yours. They're the same. If some young girl is going to be inspired that she can lead, then she needs to see sisters leading. And we have to say even to that president who was the chairman of, this is that great irony now, you the great chairman of the Civil Rights Museum downtown, to commemorate the victories and the power of us being equally established and yoked, and that women have a place in history. Some of the greatest women, while I love Dr. King, I love Ella Baker. While I love Hosea Williams, I equally love Fannie Lou Hamer, who said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And history has not been kind to women because we live in both a patriarchal as well as a, y'all know the word I'm trying to use, just a misogynistic world. I ain't got no problem saying that. There's some churches, even in this city, that women are not allowed to go preach at. Because we have a historical misinterpretation. Now, I'm not a theologian, so I don't know how to be hermeneutically sound and homiletically correct, but I know how to read the Bible. And I knew my grandmama had the gift of prophecy and deliverance because people always stand outside her door. And there was a preacher who lived in the same neighborhood. They passed him by and came to her. So, sisters, some of us now, I'm going on record as saying, I think that's a problem. All right? And I'm done now. Because anytime we get in a society where we believe that sisters cannot lead and your mama is black, and so is your sister, and on everything that I love, you wouldn't dare mess with them, your wife, so is your wife and your daughters, then we need to speak up. And if we don't speak up, then the Bible said the rocks will do what? Cry out for me. Ain't no rock gonna ever have to cry for me. As long as I get this mouth stretched open and got some words to say, I'm gonna say them, and I'm gonna say them real soon in the right places. So God bless you and God keep you. Let me just remind you now, I understand. Let me be very clear, because I had a very good friend who said, Derrick, I will follow you anywhere. I believe in you, but one place I'm not going with you is to jail. But she said, I will have you some bail money ready. So some of you all who are in here suited and booted, I do not expect you to get on no microphone, talk like this. I do not expect you to carry no sign. Your hand was not made for no sign. But when the NAACP stand up and when they ask for donations in a few minutes, write a big check, because you know you're too scared to get out here and do what Deborah Scott and what Brother Griggs do and what some of us do. Just help fund us then, okay? We'll be all right there. Is that all right? I'm going to exempt you from ever having to pick up a sign if you would just fund some of us that are will and then pray for us, right? If you can just do those two things, fund us and pray for us, all right? We'll be all right. And I ain't talking about the $5 kind either now. I don't know. $5 will not help anybody on any bail money. Put 2 zeros behind it and that'll help us, all right? God bless and God keep you. Thank you.
Y'all, I told y'all he was one of the reasons why I got involved. And you can see that clear as day. So we thank Brother Derrick Boazman for all the things that he continues to do. It's just an honor to, just fight alongside with him and to learn from him as we always continue to learn on this journey. There are a few other people that I want to thank. I want to thank the caterers in the back that have done a phenomenal job on the food. I also want to thank the brothers from Omega Psi Phi for standing with us and providing support. We in the Divine Nine joke a lot with one another, but we could not do this work without being one. So I want to, again, thank the brothers of Omega Psi Phi for the work that they're doing in the back. I also want to thank the young people. You guys have done a phenomenal job. I know y'all sitting here listening to old people talk. But hopefully it's sinking in that we are doing all of these things for you and that you truly are not just the future, you're the right now. So we really appreciate you guys being, matter of fact, all the young people, please stand. I want to give y'all a round of applause. Thank you, thank you. And so we're going to shift to the next portion of our program. We have some really, really distinguished people who have been doing some phenomenal work in the community. And one of the first people that I want to honor, I met her a long time ago, and she's a very young person, so that just shows how long she's been doing this work. Amari Fennoy is awesome. You know, from when I first met her, I believe she was a junior at Spelman. The work she was doing with the Spelman NAACP was awesome even at that point. But she continued to matriculate and become even more phenomenal in the work that she has been doing. She is an activist bar none. She is a leader. And so I just want to read a little bit of her biography. Amari Fennoy is an alum of Spelman College, graduating with a Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science and the University of Missouri St. Louis with a Master's in Education and Special Education. She has an 8-year history with the NAACP. She served as a state coordinator for the Georgia State Conference of the NAACP, president of the Georgia Youth in College, vice president of the Georgia Youth in College, vice president of Georgia Youth, Spelman chapter NAACP political action chair, and 2-term president. Under Amari's leadership, Spelman chapter earned the National Membership Laydown Award in 2018 and 2019. They earned the Chairman's Trophy for the highest membership increase from 2018 to 2019. And in 2019, she earned the Lucille Black Award for highest total membership production. Amari was recognized for her efforts with honor for the 2019 Region 5 Youth and College Organizer of the Year. And she's also the 2019 Reverend Dr. Amos Brown Activist Award winner. Her work, her demanding work and dedication led to her to represent the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in the 2019 Women's March in Washington, D.C. Amari has worked tirelessly as a social justice advocate, mentor, and powerful voice within the Georgia State Conference. She brings a quality of leadership that embodies strength and compassion to the NAACP organization and the communities around her. She has a heart for her work, and her passion goes far beyond catering to the state of Georgia. Amari is the quintessential leader. When I talk about the fact that I am supremely proud of the next generation, Amari embodies all of that. So it's with great honor that I present to her, if she could come up, this small token of our appreciation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I must start off by saying I am extremely honored to receive this award from the organization and from the branch that started me off in my advocacy. I remember the first time I was in the Atlanta office, I brought 17 Spelman women to President Rose and to President Griggs to talk about policy, to talk about reproductive justice, to ensure that Black women had a voice, ensuring that we had a presence and we had a seat at the table. And I think forever we have an understanding that Black women, especially Spelman women, will always have a seat at the table. And if we don't, we'll make sure that we have one. But I'm really appreciative to have you all in my corner. I do want us to remember that democracy wins when all eligible voters are able to exercise their fundamental right to vote in a free and fair election. In the words of our Vice President of Campaigns, Dominic Whitehead, democracy is at stake, and we understood that this election. Over 100 branches and over 80 members of the Youth in College, We toured different cities. We had 35 trainings. We visited 25 colleges in rural cities that were overlooked often over and over and over every election. We sent 2 million text messages, sent hundreds and thousands of phone calls, knocked on hundreds of doors, provided lift codes, provided grants for units to mobilize their community members. The NAACP continued to monitor with our incident reports, with our attorneys on the ground, with legislation. We were in the courtrooms. Not only were we on the ground, but we were in the courtrooms just like we will be in the legislative session in the upcoming weeks. My favorite quote is from my soror, Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. We took our folding chair to every city within Georgia to make sure that they understood their power and their vote. And we did that with Black women from Black Voters Matter, from Georgia NAACP, from Georgia Stand Up. We all mobilized and ensured that our people got out to vote. And we understood that our youth were the influencers, and those are the shakers. That's who we go to ensure that what we need to have done is done. We went to every single HBCU in Georgia and registered and mobilized to have them in sprinters going to vote. We made sure that they had every resource, even the AUC who was disenfranchised by SB 202 because they didn't have voter IDs or they didn't have Georgia IDs. We understood the needs and we met the people where they were. And we made sure that they understood that they had their power. The legislative session is coming up. 2024 is coming up, and we have to keep the momentum. And I want to make sure that we understand that we still have something to say. The South has something to say, especially Georgia. All roads lead to Georgia. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention the women who are on the forefront with us. Ms. Deborah Scott, Olivia Duncan, Latasha Brown, Helen Butler, Fanika Miller, Melanie Calhoun, Ms. Karen Renee, Delinda Gaskins, and many, many more, Portia Miller. But we also thank those men who stood behind us, like President Griggs, President Rose, Antonio Lewis, several different individuals who are always supportive and behind us, and we always thank you, and we appreciate your support. But thank you all.
Y'all, when I say she's a phenomenal woman, phenomenal leader, and I want to go on record on something, because just like Derrick, I didn't get a chance to fully go on record, and people have reminded me. I've received the phone calls. I'm gravely concerned about what's happening in the city of Atlanta. As a Black man, raised by a Black woman, loved by Black women, raising a Black woman, I want to make sure that not only Black women have a seat at the table, but they're at the head of the table. So, Doug, give me a call. Now, there is a young man who I have had the honor of working with in courtrooms around Georgia, who I've seen matriculate through the House of Power, serving Georgia in so many capacities. You know, William Boddie is a friend of mine. You know, I appreciate him being present not only on the front lines, but in the houses of power, in the courtroom. And the work that he has done for Georgia deserves to be honored. So I want to read a little bit of his bio. Here it is. State Representative Will Boddie is a native Atlantan, currently resides in East Point. He's a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated and a lifelong, I told y'all we love each other, a lifelong member of Antioch Baptist Church. Representative Boddie is a graduate of Mercer University, the Walter F. George School of Law in Macon, Georgia, and has been practicing law since November the 7th, 2005. Representative Boddie was first elected to the Georgia House of Representatives on November of 2016 and was sworn in January the 9th, 2017. After just one term of office, his House of Representatives Democratic Caucus colleagues elected Representative Boddie to serve as the minority whip for November of 2018, the second ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives. Before being elected to the GHDC leadership, Representative Boddie was appointed to serve as the communications chair for the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus in July of 2017. Representative Boddie served on the Budget and Fiscal Oversight Committee and the Judicial Non-Civil, the Small Business Development, and the Special Committee on Access to Civil Justice System Committees. Representative Boddie has passed over 27 bills in 6 years as a Democrat in the Georgia House of Representatives. Among those bills, Representative Boddie co-authored and was lead co-sponsor of House Bill 479, which is Georgia's citizens arrest repeal legislation. House Bill 479 was created and passed into law in direct response to the Ahmaud Arbery murder of February the 23rd, 2020 in Glenn County. Representative Boddie, among others, were a part of a delegation that got on a bus and rode down to Brunswick to make sure folks understood that activism flows into policy making. And so for his extraordinary work as a citizen of Georgia, it is my distinct honor to honor Representative Boddie with a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you so much, President Griggs. It's an honor to be here. First, I have to thank God for the opportunity to even serve my community and to serve my state. But also, I have to honor my mother, who is here today, Gloria Boddie, and also my brother, Kevin Boddie. And we all know Miss Deborah Boddie, her phenomenal hair, my wife, sitting there. I want you to stand up, Deborah. She's been all over Georgia with me. But I want to say that I stand on the shoulders of giants, not only the esteemed Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who's also a native son of Atlanta like myself, but also on my uncle, Baba Avendala. But also on dear friends like Derrick Boazman, who brought me into Let Us Make Man as a young attorney back in 2009. And I remember when I said, Derrick, I'm about to run for public office back in 2015. Let Us Make Man, we have meetings every Thursday night at Derrick's home. 9 to 10, that's what it says. That's what it tells us. But sometimes it goes about 11 o'clock. But we had a long meeting, and I remember saying to Derrick, I'm gonna run for State House. And it was already about 11 o'clock at night. We sat and talked with Brother Keenan Walker till about 3 in the morning on what it takes to be an elected official that's conscious about your community and about your people. And so that's what I took into the State House. And when we talk about courage in politics, I want to give you 2 quick stories. One was with the citizens arrest repeal legislation. My caucus filed that legislation originally back in June of 2020. But when we filed that legislation, we had another piece of legislation that my dear friend, the Bishop, Reginald Jackson, made sure was first priority, and it was the hate crimes bill. And I never forget, we was all going through COVID at the time, and we had reconvened session for about 11 days in June. It was hot. We were all ready to go. We were scared because nobody knew what COVID still was. And I remember Bishop Jackson said to me and to my caucus and to the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, y'all cannot leave this State House until we get a hate crime bill in Georgia. And I remember 48 hours before Sonny died and we gaveled out. We worked every day of those 2 days, every hour, every minute, until we passed a hate crimes bill in June of 2020. And I'm very honored to be able to work on that legislation. But then we had another piece of legislation after Ahmaud Arbery was murdered back in February of 2020. And I remember the majority party telling me, we can't do 2 of these type bills. And I was like, what are these type bills? What do you mean? Well, we can't do 2 of those bills in this one session. You may have to wait. Well, I was like, well, we're waiting. But we're coming back, and we're going to get citizens arrest repealed in the state of Georgia after Amari was murdered for no reason but his skin color when he was running through a neighborhood in Glenn County trying to clear his mind. And so when we came back, I was told that it still wasn't going to get done that June. So I was like, we'll wait. And then we had the summer of social change when young people like you all marched through the streets of Atlanta and Glenn County, and also George Floyd, also Sandra Bland, also Breonna Taylor, so many others were being honored for the loss of life, which was recklessly taken from them. And so I recall, Derrick, I was sitting right before session was about to start in January 2021. And my dear friend, my successor, Tanya Miller's probably going to be getting those calls coming up this weekend. And the governor's floor leader called me. And it said that the governor wants to do something about citizens arrest repeal legislation. That's after they said we couldn't do this type of bill. And now Georgia is still one of the only states in this country repeal its citizens arrest statute, which no citizen can come and arrest another citizen of this state. But also, my mayor challenged me, Mayor Holiday Ingram challenged me as a state legislator. And I say that with all the confidence and all the respect. She said, Representative Boddie, why can East Point not have the most legislation? And I was like, man, well, you know, City of Atlanta was able to get it, but, you know, that was a special circumstance. And Derrick was there working on that legislation as well. The most legislation is the municipal ops and sales tax. And what we had in East Point at the time, we had water mains that was 40, 50 years old, infrastructure that was crumbling. And I said, man, I don't know if we could get this done. And she said, well, I want you to try. And so I got with Representative Schofield, who's my dear friend, Kim Schofield, and Senator Sonia Harper, and Senator Nan Alrock, and also Representative David Dreyer. And we all came together and was like, we're going to file this legislation. Because this legislation has the potential to bring $40 million to the city of East Point, the city of Hateville, and to the city of College Park to upgrade our aging infrastructure. And when it got in the tooth and nail of it, and when the Senate Majority Leader told me at the time, William Boddie, that bill is not going to pass, someone from GMA gave me a story about then Mayor of Atlanta, Shirley Franklin, going to a then newly elected Republican governor and saying Atlanta needed the most sales tax passed because of the infrastructure issues that Atlanta was having. And this mayor, newly mayor, in 2004 was able to get the Georgia General Assembly and a Republican majority to pass a piece of legislation that benefited the city of Atlanta. And when I started to say, this can't get done, it won't get done, I thought about you, Mayor. And I said, if a new mayor, the first African-American woman, could go to then Governor Sonny Perdue, who was just elected the first governor in the state of Georgia to be a Republican in over 100 years, surely, William Boddie, you need to work a little harder. And when they said it still ain't gonna get through on the night of Sunday died because you got all Democrats on it, I said, no, we gotta get it done. And we got it done. I'm very happy that the citizens of College Park, East Point, and Hateville passed that legislation on the ballots back last year. But I wanna end by saying this. When you go into politics, you have to go into it as a selfless servant leader. The people put you into halls of power to do the people's work. You're not being placed there for a title, a name badge, or some honor that you think you're above. You're put there, as my dear friend C.T. Martin told me, to protect and serve the people of your community. And I've been honored to serve the people of South Fulton and Douglas County, where I was born and raised, to be able to do more to help us to move our agenda forward by passing legislation that's going to help the community and not hurt the community. Thank you all for having me. Georgia NAACP, thank you for the honor. And thank you, Gerald, for all that you do. And we need you, brother, at the State House in session coming up.
Thank you again, Representative Boddie, for all the wonderful work that you have done and will continue to do for Georgia. The last, but certainly most important award goes to a man who I've seen on the front lines fighting for justice, who actually called for boycotts against major corporations in Georgia when voting rights were under attack. And when I say that, you know, he's been on the front lines with us, most of the time he beat us to the front line. And so that is awesome. But I want to read a little bit of the biography of Bishop Reginald Jackson. And I'm just so proud to have worked with him and continue to work with him. And it goes like this. The Episcopal District of the African American Methodist Episcopal Church, which encompasses more than 500 churches in the state of Georgia. Bishop Jackson was selected and consecrated the 132nd bishop of the AME Church on in July of 2012 at the 49th quadrennial session of the General Conference held in Nashville, Tennessee. He was appointed at the bishop of the 12th Episcopal District and as the ecumenical and urban affairs officers of the AME Church. He was also the chair of the Social Action Commission. A native of Dover, Delaware, he graduated from Dover Public Schools. In 1976, he graduated from Delaware State University with a bachelor's degree in history. In 1972, he was licensed to preach at Mount Zion AME Church in Dover, Delaware, under the pastorate of Reverend Rudolph Coleman. He was ordained as an itinerant deacon in 1975 by Bishop Ernest Lawrence Hickman, and an iterate elder in 1977 by Bishop Richard Allen Hildebrandt. He graduated from Turner Seminary at the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta, Georgia in 1979. Bishop Jackson has served as the president of the Black Ministers Council of New Jersey, BMC, representing more than 600 churches in New Jersey. He was outspoken on every major issue in New Jersey, pressing the New Jersey State Supreme Court to order New Jersey to increase spending on poor school districts in the state, adequate funding for charity care, legislation to end predatory lending, and ending the death penalty in New Jersey, needle exchange, and legislation to make racial profiling a crime, the only state in the nation to pass such a law. Bishop Jackson had received 4 pens from 3 governors used to sign state legislation he was influential in helping to get passed. He received hundreds of awards for his service, including an honorary doctor at Payne Theological Seminary, ITC Seminary, Wilberforce University. He is a life member of the NAACP, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, and a board member of the Conference of National Black Churches. In 2016, he earned the bishop of the 6th Episcopal District at the 50th quadrennial session of the General Conference. During his tenure, he has paid off the district's debt, chairs the board of Morris Brown College, the board of Turner Theological Seminary, set district policies of the church, church growth, Christian education, and handling money God's way, and social justice. He challenged the state legislature and the governor to pass hate crime legislation that was eventually signed by the governor in 2020. Has been an outspoken, vocal advocate for voting rights and a host of other social issues. Bishop Jackson is married to Christy Davis Jackson, an attorney, and he's the father of 2 children. I present to you the Bishop, Bishop Reginald Jackson, and we are thankful for all of the work that he continues to do in the state of Georgia.
Thank you so very much. Let me thank the Atlanta NAACP for this award, which I am very much humbled and appreciative to receive. And yet, whenever I receive one of these awards, it makes me realize how really important it is for us to work together. Because as much as I receive this reward is really not about me, it's about us. I have been blessed to work with some of the finest ministers anywhere in the world here in the state of Georgia. I have been honored to work with leaders of organizations who I refer to as our partners in the movement, some of them here today. Nobody does anything by themselves. And so I accept this award not for me, but for us. And I'm thankful to God for allowing us to partner and work together. Every now and then someone will ask me what motivates me. When I was ordained in Delaware, there was an elderly woman whose name I don't know. Didn't know who she was. But after I was ordained, she came to me with tears running down her cheek. And she only said 2 words, but I remember those 2 words ever since. She simply shook my hand and said, "Be faithful." So I've spent my life just trying to be faithful. 1976, I came to Atlanta to go to seminary. And I tell you the truth, I got off to a rocky start. My parents gave me a car, and they drove down in another car. Got to Atlanta, I was so happy. The next morning, I went by the hotel to say goodbye to them before they left. I was stunned. The clerk at the hotel said, "They gone." And I said, "They didn't even wait to say goodbye. They were that anxious to get rid of me." So it was a rough start. But I wanted to come to Atlanta to seminary because of Atlanta's history, its leadership of the civil rights movement. And there is a quote from Dr. King which really has focused and shaped my life. Everybody talks about the dream, but Martin Luther King said something which just motivates me. And he said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where you stand at times of convenience and comfort, but at times of challenge and controversy. For in such times, expediency asks, is it politic? Vanity asks, is it popular? Cowardice asks, is it safe? But conscience asks, is it right?" And so for all that we seek to do, for us the question is it right? Yes. Yes. And as much as some on the far right want to believe that we are all of this and all of that, The fact is, there is much in America that's not right. And our commitment and our responsibility is to make it right. I especially want to thank all of the AMEs who have been so extremely supportive. I'm sitting next to a man today who one of the greatest blessings for me when I came to Georgia was to meet Gerald Derrick. He gets around faster than I do, has more energy than I have. He just will not tell me what he drinks. But he and others like him have meant so much to me. And finally, as I close, I am always mindful of something that Jesus said in the Lord's Prayer. Some words we remember almost everything about the Lord's Prayer except for these words. But these words, to me, are the ones that really guide and direct me. He said, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." I hope as we go forward, because 2023 going forward is going to be tough. Supreme Court's going to make some decisions, which I just envision are going to make it harder for us. Gut the Voting Rights Act, end affirmative action, make it harder to vote is going to be tough. Tomorrow, if they can ever decide who they want to be Speaker, we're going to face a House of Representatives whose agenda is not for us. Every morning you turn on the news, the first story is somebody got shot. Unfortunately, too many of them children and youth. It's going to be tough. But I hope we will not become weary and well-doing, but continue to do the work, hearing what Jesus said, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth." Thank you again.
Thank you again, Bishop Jackson, for all of the work that you are doing in Georgia and all the work that you've already done all around the country. As the bishop mentioned, there's going to be some rocky roads ahead. But we all know, like has been said by so many people, that when we fight, we win. And so that's what I want to make sure people continue to remember. The fight that has been left in us by our ancestors, we must tap into. Now, there are a few people that I must thank before we move into the benediction. First and foremost, I want the entire executive committee of the Atlanta NAACP to stand up. I want them to be given a great round of applause, because without them, we could do none of this work. There's also someone else I want to specifically thank. I want to thank Karen Renee for all of the work. Not only is she the second vice president, but she is the program director for the Atlanta NAACP. And y'all, none of this stuff that me and Richard and so many others do would be possible without Karen Renee. So I just want to thank her personally. I also want to thank all of you for coming and think it not robbery to spend time with the Atlanta branch of the NAACP. We really appreciate you. Now, as others have said, freedom is not free. The work and the programming that goes into the Atlanta NAACP has to be funded. We have to be secure so that we can speak truth to power. And some of them go to jail and then I get them out. And eventually I'm probably gonna go too. But so please go to the website, www.naacp-Atlanta.org. Please donate, make sure that you give. And if you are not a life member of the NAACP, we fully ask you to join and become a life member. You know, for just $750, you can raise a whole lifetime of hell. For $1,500, you can go to that next level, which is the, you know, the Gerald and Richard level of causing trouble. And for $2,500, you can go to the Dr. King, C.T. Vivian, John Lewis level of troublemaking. So please join us. We have a lot of work to do in 2023. We see what's on the horizon, both in Washington and here in Georgia. And just always remember, anytime there is an extreme success or victory by people of color, but primarily black people, there's a backlash. We already know that a backlash is coming. Before they file the bills in the House or the Senate here in Georgia, before they launch the investigations up in Washington or file more bills, before the Supreme Court hands down a ruling on the independent state legislature doctrine, we all know it's coming. But what I want to leave you with is hope. Because just like 158 years ago, many of our ancestors sat in cabins or outside awaiting freedom, and then we kind of got free-ish, sort of. We have that same level of determination, that will of spirit, that focus and that resolve. But we also are going to do something a little different than our ancestors. We're going to teach them exactly how we do this so that there's no mystic glow upon us that says, oh, we were special people that did special things. No, we weren't. Young people, this is what I want to leave with y'all. We are not special. We just saw a problem and decided to put one foot in front of the other. Most of the time, we didn't even know how to fix the problem until we confronted the problem. I can remember getting a phone call from several people from Brunswick, Georgia. I didn't know what we were getting into. We got on buses and went down there and walked down that street, and we saw that blood crying out from the concrete, and we got mobilized. That's all y'all got to do. And what y'all have is something that we never had, okay? Y'all have the power of unlimited knowledge in the palm of your hand. You can literally reach out to any of these people in the audience and the ones watching online and ask the question that you don't know the answer to. And know this, adults don't have all the answers. We do a good job of pretending that we have the answers, but we don't. But in 2020 and in 2021, we learned to tap into y'all's energy. I mean, y'all was outside for real. We're gonna have to go back outside. We're gonna have to get in some good and necessary trouble. And like many of the speakers said before, I know everybody can't come outside. Much I'd like for y'all to come outside. But if you can't come outside, help fund those who are going outside. Send emails and text messages and tweets and cards and postcards demanding change. Because change only occurs when the people convene. 2020, which I love to call Freedom Summer, happened because millions upon millions of people saw a young jogger running through Scintilla Shores, murdered on a video. It shocked the conscience of everybody. You know, I wasn't alive when Emmett was murdered, but I can only imagine what that felt like to see his body lay in that casket and that casket being open. But I did hear how Wanda Cooper Jones and Marcus Arbery felt when they found out their son was murdered for simply running down a street. We got to channel that. And we got to remember this fight is not over. Our opposition is very much planning right now. So we got to get on the battlefield. If we want to talk about the work of CT and John and Dr. King and John Dale and Ella, all of these legends of the past, we got to do the work in the now. So as we get ready to close, and I'm going to call up Reverend Derrick, who's been on the front lines longer than anybody in this room. We owe it to him and those that came before us not to make excuses, not to say we tired, not to say that it was great that they faced the dogs and the hoses and the beatings and the lynchings and the murders. We got to face that same thing. Because the only way these babies are going to have their own bodily autonomy, because they've already taken women's reproductive rights. They're in the process of continuing to take our voting rights. If they'll take your body and they'll take your vote, they will take your life. So I can't become any more serious in this call than right now. In 2023, we got to be ready to stand up and fight back. The NAACP has been standing up and fighting back for 113 years. Will you join us in this fight? Because when folks ask me the ridiculous question they always ask me, Gerald, why is the NAACP relevant? I point to the fact that we always stand up and fight back. Imagine a world without folks that stand up and fight back. So join us in the fight. I call up my friend, my colleague, my mentor. Oh, the choir? I thought it was the benediction. I'm sorry. That's why you need people helping you. We will turn it over to the choir, and then I'll call up Reverend Derrick for the benediction.
Walking in authority, living life without apology. It's not wrong here, I belong here, so you might as well get used to me. My mother may not be a queen, but my father's king of everything. I'm adopted into the family, so I guess that makes me royalty. And he's giving me dominion, yes. Power over men, them, yes. Everything I do is blessed. Promise me some great success. I am the authority, God of the majority, living in my liberty. So you might as well get used to me, sing. I'm walking in authority. I said living life without apology. It's not wrong, I belong, so you might as well. Listen to this. My mother may not be a queen, but my father's king of everything. I'm adopted into the family, so I guess that makes me royalty. And he's giving me dominion, yes. Power of him in them, yes. Everything I do is blessed. Promise me some great success. I am the authority, God of the majority, living in my liberty. So you might as well get used to me, sing. I said living life. It's not wrong. I belong. So you might as well. Listen, get something in your hand. 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 And wave it in the air. 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 I said a 1, a 2, a 3. A 1, a 2, a 3. A 1, a 2, 3. So you might as well get used to me, say. I said living life. It's not wrong. I belong. So you might as well. Listen, get something in your hand. 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 And wave it in the air. 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 I said a 1, a 2, a 3. A 1, a 2, 3. A 1, a 2, 3. 1, a 2, 3. I said a 1, a 2, a 3. A 1, a 2, 3. A 1, a 2, 3. So you might as well get used to me, sing. I said living life. It's not wrong. I belong. So you might as well. I'm walking in authority. It said living life. It's not wrong. I belong. So you might as well. Used to me.
You know, there are many times you never know where you're going to get your blessing. I got up this morning and I was tired and I was weary. And I said, you know, I'm just going to sit here and rest a minute. But today, I want to thank you young people for your excitement. Do you know, young people, you all were alive, you were awake, and I want to congratulate you because in the world in which we live, young people fall out, they go to sleep, they cuss you out, they walk away, but you stayed. And I think we need to commend them. They have been great. You never know where you're going to get your blessing. I feel so good today. 2 years ago to the day, my wife passed. 1 year after that, to the day, my son passed. The 31st was her birthday. And as I sat there alone, I wondered, how do you go on? How do you continue? And then you come to a place like today, where you find out that there is something deep down inside of you that won't let you quit, that won't let you turn around, that won't let you back up, that won't let you bend, that won't let you bow. You stand still. So on behalf of the NAACP, we thank you. We heard from a prophetic voice today. Derrick Boazman, you are a prophet of our time. Hear ye him. He said it so profusely and so wonderful. And sometimes you wonder, when I think back, my close mentor, I met John Lewis, I was 18. He was 20. And an old man used to talk to us, and we said, oh, that old man ain't don't make no sense. He was 34 years old, an old man, C.T. Vivian. What could an old man like C.T. tell us? We were 18 and 20 years of age. But today I feel so good when I see the mayor of East Point and Deborah Scott and Shirley Franklin and certainly Amari Fennoy picking up the torch and carrying it on. You all are to be commended. So as we stand for the benediction, Rabbi Cohen, I'm thinking about the old prophet Jeremiah. When Jeremiah decided to go back to the community had been torn down and all the health care was gone and the educational systems were torn up. But Jeremiah said, I've got to go back to the community. I cannot put my head in the sand. And as you leave this place today with the feeling that Jeremiah had, that this was just not another occasion, but this was a blessing, an individual and a collective blessing, Representative Boddie, where when you leave this place, you don't leave like you came in. Something inside of you should be different. Something inside of you to say that when I go into the CVS, the Home Depot, the little store on the corner, that somebody's going to see something in me that will change their lives to make us to continue to fight on and never give up. Jeremiah said that I'm going back and I'm going to rebuild the wall around Jerusalem. We've been called to rebuild the wall around our community. And to do that, he put everybody had a job. But let me tell you what your job is as you leave this place. Jeremiah said in Jeremiah, the 4th chapter, that I've got all of the warriors around me. I've got the builders around me. But the persons that he kept right next to him, Derrick, were the trumpet blowers, were those that had the ram's horn. And when anything came ever to attack, they blew the trumpet. So I say to all of you, leave this place on Jubilee Day, blowing your trumpet for justice, blowing your trumpet for honesty, blowing your trumpet for decency, blowing your trumpet for equality and justice. Blow your trumpet. Don't become weary in well-doing, for this is our time. This is our moment. We will not back up. And if I can keep on going at 81 years old, you can keep on going for 81 more minutes. God bless this place, bless this occasion, bless everyone here. Let us depart from this place, but never from your presence. God, let us feel your power emanating and moving in each of us. Let us leave this place walking a little bit higher, stepping a little bit stronger, running to see what the end will be. And victory will be assured if we never give up, if we never back up, if we never bow, if we never break. God, we thank you for the NAACP and for what all of it's doing and what all it will do. Is we leave from this place knowing that you've done what was assigned under your hands to do, and feel the power, feel the power, feel the Holy Ghost power, feel the divine presence of God telling each of us, let's stay on the wall. And we offer this benediction on the wings of the afternoon. And all those who leave here with their trumpet in their hand, ready to blow the trumpet for justice, say amen. Amen. Let them hear you at the fire station. Let them hear you across the street. Blow your trumpet. Happy New Year.